If you need unlimited domination, clutch time, or anything else grinded, make sure you hit up Rose NBA on Twitter for quick, safe, and reliable grinding services. Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, we're doing episode number 7 of I Build Your Teams, the series where I build my viewers' teams into the best teams possible for my team unlimited and or competitive play based on how much MT they have and what their squad is currently looking like. Before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 8,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day, generally multiple videos a day, and I would really appreciate your support if you haven't already, if you do subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. Let's start off with this first team today, which comes in from Francisco. He's got Russ and Donovan Mitchell, Latrell and Danny Green, Gordon Hayward, Larry Johnson, Scottie Pippen, Batum, Arvydas, and LaMarcus Aldridge. So, says he's got about 400,000 MT, willing to spend 120k plus or sell anybody to make some upgrades. Okay, so I like this team a lot. That's what I will say to start off with. First of all, what I personally would recommend doing probably is putting Scottie Pippen at the 3 and then having Larry Johnson as your 4. I think that improves your starting lineup a little bit. And then I would also, and then you can have Gordon Hayward off the bench with Nick Batum. I would also probably take Latrell, move him to the bench. As much as I love Danny Green as a budget option, you have the MT. I think picking up a guy like RJ Barrett would be an absolute double. So W, so then you have a starting lineup of something like Russ, RJ, Pippen, Larry Johnson, and Arvydas. Off the bench, you'd have something like Arvydas, Latrell, Gordon Hayward, Nick Batum, and Aldridge. And then Nick Batum and Aldridge off your bench are definitely going to be your weakest spots at that point. I think if you wanted to spend a little bit more MT, you could go with Carmelo Anthony, who's becoming cheaper and cheaper. I think he's a really good option. And then maybe backup center. I don't know if you want to spend the MT is the thing. You won't have the MT left over at that point if you pick up RJ Barrett and Carmelo and you wanted to stay at that 120k-ish price point. After buying those two guys, you're going to be pretty close to, or maybe even a little over that 120k. So you may not want to pay for a center, but I think a guy like Chris Bosh, if you wanted to pony up a little bit of MT, would be an awesome option. Other than that, I don't know what you're doing with Trophy Case, but maybe going for a guy like Kevin McHale from the Trophy Case as a center would be awesome as well. But yeah, overall, I like this team a lot. I think it's definitely pretty solid. Those few upgrades, though, I think will definitely help you out. Second team today comes in from Rafe. He's got 100,000 MT. Jaw, I'm not sure if this Jaw is the collector level one or if this is, I'm sorry, not the collector level, the locker code one or the other one. If this isn't the locker code Jaw, I might consider selling him just to free up some MT. I would definitely sell Embiid. I will say that. I would definitely sell him to free up some MT, as well as Dominique Wilkins. As good as those cards are, they're all very expensive, and I think they're really not worth the amount of MT they're going for currently. I'm actually going to pull up 2KDB to build your squad out a little bit more if possible. And let's go here. Create lineup. So we got this team right here. Let's drag it over here toward the end. Let's build something like, how would you go with the point? You know what? We're going to leave Jaw. I think you leave Jaw. I think you sell Dominique and Embiid. You go backup point guard. You go somebody, for my personal opinion, you go a guy like Dyson Daniels. At the 2, you go a guy like RJ Barrett. And off the bench, you go somebody like, did you have Latrell? I think you had Latrell at the 2. No, you do not have Latrell at the 2. So we go Latrell instead of Jason Richardson. A little bit more versatile there. Starting 3. Definitely think AK is cool. Backup 3, as much as I love Danny Green, I think Kawhi gives you a little bit more defensively at the 3. At the 4, you go Carmelo. I am really cool with Carmelo. I think he definitely can stay. I think we keep Carmelo. And then at the backup 4, I don't mind Paulo either. I think he's definitely a solid option at the backup 4. 5, you go somebody like Chet Holmgren, and I think you go with a slightly cheaper center option starter. Somebody like, we'll go Chris Bosh. I think Chris Bosh is going to be cheaper than Embiid, and honestly, I think he's a little bit better than Embiid, in my personal opinion as well. So you could probably build this 10-man right now from this team you have right here, and I think this is a much, much better 10-man than the team that you are growing with currently. So for me personally, that's what I would go with. I would also sell Dirk. Just sell all the players that aren't in the lineup anymore, in my opinion. Build this 10-man. You're going to have a ton of success. Third team today is going to come in from Rio. He's got 700,000 MT, would loves input on his centers and his power forwards because he feels like that's where he struggles. And honestly, I see why, because I think the rest of your team is honestly very good. I will still recommend a change with your starting lineup, kind of, and that would be starting Kid Cunningham at the 1. I think having his versatility and his size at the point guard position is so valuable. And then you can sell Steph and make even more MT. You'll be close to 1 million MT at that point. And at that point, you can just buy a 2. RJ Barrett, I've recommended him a couple times already, and I'm probably going to continue to. because he's a really, really good card. At that shooting guard position, you can have D Rose and RJ off the bench, with that being your starting three, and then D Rose, RJ, and Wiggins off the bench, with Cade, Jimmy, and Scotty obviously starting. Your 4s and 5s are probably the weaker positions, especially if you make that upgrade right there. But you're going to have like 900,000 MT, which is a lot of MT to make upgrades. And since I do have my console actually pulled up right next to me right now, I'm going to look up the price of a guy named Kevin Garnett just to see how much he's going for right now and if he's worth picking up for your squad. And it looks like he's going for about 400,000, 450,000 MT. And considering you'd be close to $1 million after selling Steph, I think you do it. I think you pull the trigger and you buy Kevin Garnett, the best big in the game. You can have him and Larry Johnson start together, and then Paulo and Jermaine off the bench is fine. You could also get Carmelo Anthony or even a Jason Tatum if you want a guy with a little bit more defense than Carmelo, and you could plug them in at the 4, whether that's Tatum or Carmelo. Tatum's more expensive. Carmelo's going to be obviously cheaper, but I think Tatum probably is the slightly better card. But either way, you have Carmelo or Tatum alongside KG, and then Larry Johnson and Jermaine coming off the bench. And I think that comboed with picking up RJ, selling Steph, and starting Cade is a amazing, amazing team for you to run. Trent's got a mill. He's got Russ, RJ, Richard Jefferson, Draymond, and Chet, Dyson, Latrell, Wiggs, Kirilenko, and Paulo. Obviously, your big man is probably your biggest weakness, just like with these last couple teams. I like Dyson Daniels a lot as a backup PG. I think he's super solid, especially next to a guy like Latrell who can kind of play make, and even Wiggins can kind of play make. That being said, I do think with a guy like Dyson, having an elite pick and pop power forward is really useful, and that is where I would plug in Carmelo Anthony. Then you can sell AK as well. Could be a little bit more expensive to buy Carmelo than sell AK, but not much. It's close to an even swap. And then you move Chet to the bench and you buy Kevin Garnett. I think that's about all you got to do. You go Russ, RJ, Richard Jefferson, Draymond Green, and KG off the bench. You go Dyson, Latrell, Andrew Wiggins, Carmelo, and Chet. That's an incredible 10, man. Really like that a lot. Third to last team is coming in from Mary today. He's got 500,000 plus MT. He says he's 11 to 15 on Hayward, so he's going to replace Wiggins. You know, I like Wiggins a lot, I'll be honest, but once you get Hayward, you could definitely play him over Wiggins if you want. Just try him out, decide which card you prefer. I probably would actually lean Wiggins personally, but it's kind of up to you depending on what you want to go with. Wade, Iggy, Scotty, James, and Jermaine is a really solid starting lineup. I do prefer Bosch over Jermaine personally, so I would be starting Bosch and bringing Jermaine off the bench, but if you like Jermaine over Bosch, feel free to keep running with it. You have obviously a lot of MT, and you really only have one main hole in your team, which is obviously that backup shooting guard position. Yet again, I'm going to recommend RJ Barrett. He's just a capable guy on the offensive and defensive end of the court, can move with the ball or without the ball, shoots at a high level with a good release, defends it really, really well. Overall, just a really good card, and I think that's obviously the only significant hole on your team. So plug in an RJ Barrett there, and then you can kind of decide between Gordon Hayward and Andrew Wiggins, however you would like to once you get to that point with Hayward. Second to last team today. No, I wanted to do this team second to last. Sorry. Comes in from Jet. He's got 900,000 MT. Needs a centerpiece for Rose or Rip, and he's about 50 cards away from Larry Johnson. I kind of actually agree with Mary's point right here. I do think Larry Johnson could be a spot on your team if you wanted to at the backup small forward or power forward, although I do think your team is totally fine the way it is. I think you don't need Larry Johnson. Like, this team is super solid. I do think your point guard position and your center position are your weakest spots for sure, and I think Chris Middleton's not worth the MT when you can sell him. Pick up a guy like RJ Barrett who's cheaper and better, in my opinion. Fits the meta of the game more as a rim runner as well. You definitely need a point guard though, and that's why I would say use the centerpiece on Rose, not Rip Hamilton. Rose is the better option for your team, especially because then you can have Rose and Dyson as your PGs, RJ and Latrell as your shooting guards, and then your 3s and your 4s, like I said, are really good. You need a 5. You got the MT to pick them up. Again, go get Kevin Garnett. If you don't want to spend quite that much MT, go get Chris Bosh. But either way, get yourself an upgrade at that center position so you can move Jermaine to the bench and have yourself an elite squad all the way around. Then finally, we got this team from Crabbed. Obviously, y'all can look at this team and know that it is one of the best teams you can possibly build in the game. I mean, there are small upgrades he could potentially make if he wanted to, but there really is no need for an upgrade. I know he loves Larry Johnson as well, one of his favorite cards. I just wanted to include this team for one show. This is the type of team that you can build really quite easily without spending barely any money. Because if you look at it, obviously Jaw's expensive, but if you were to replace him with a guy like Donovan Mitchell, who's a free card from last season, even a budget point guard, somebody like, I don't know, a Dyson Daniels, you could go out with this lineup and have basically a very budget point guard, a Cade Cunningham, Jimmy and Anthony Edwards, who are all, well, Jimmy and Anthony Edwards aren't free. Jimmy and Anthony Edwards are free. Cade, not quite. But Scottie Pippen going to be free. Carmelo, pretty budgeted this point. Larry Johnson and Kemp both free, and then Kevin Garnett and Bosch being expensive. But this is the type of team that you could legitimately build no money spent if you've been grinding the game, because you get a lot of rewards from completing all these modes, and he's only got a few auctionable players in on his squad, especially if you were to replace Ja with a guy like Donovan Mitchell. I just think it's really possible to have an elite level, competitive level team this year without spending a ton of money on the game, because you only really need a few auctionable positions on the team, and I think big man, really, center is the only key spot right now for that those auctionable players, unless you have a guy like Anthony Davis. But also wanted to congratulate Crabbed on qualifying for 250. He qualified on Xbox, so big props to him for that as well. And yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. So hopefully y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.